Your eyes do not deceive you. This is Peter Wright playing on stage 2. I, for the life of me, have got no idea the last time he was on stage 2. He's been a headline act here at Minehead for years. But because today is so stacked with incredible fixtures, he's been put onto our board, and we're very happy about it. But he's going up against someone who he's had a few battles with at Minehead over the years. It's Bunting Wright. Right now, your dessert for what has been a 3-star Friday, especially when you consider what we've had the last 2 games. Dan McCarthy's with me. Ross Smith-Clayton was fantastic. Rob Cross, Barneveld, just as good, if not better. What are we going to get with this one?
Well, if Ross Smith v Johnny Clayton was maybe a perfect fillet steak with some sautéed potatoes or whatever, this one could be a cracking cheesecake of a match, which is the worst metaphor ever uttered in the history of humanity.
I'm all over cheesecake matches, Dan. Come on, I'm going to back you up.
But again, it's another match where we were watching the draw and we were thinking, very interesting, because Peter Wright has not had a good start to the year. It's 5 defeats from 5 in the Premier League. He did win the Nordic Darts Masters, but in the ranking events, he's exited early in Players' Championship events. It's really been a bit of a slog for him so far. And he's coming up against Stephen Bunting, who has made a career in the PDC out of being one of the most consistent players on tour. He's still awaiting that lucrative first major title. Maybe an outside bet for some people heading into this weekend with the open nature of the draw. But on his day, a very, very capable player. And Peter Wright's going to have to be at his best to beat him.
I agree with that, actually. I think the mental strength of Stephen Bunting carries him far these days. And I mentioned those previous meetings at Minehead. They do have a win each, but very different battles. They played in the UK Open in 2013. That was at Bolton. But then a couple of years later they played here. And that was a game that Stephen Bunting wants to forget. He lost 10-0. But then he had to wait a period of 3.5 years before he played him again at Minehead, and he did get the better of him, 10-9. That was, funnily enough, it was a game right at the end of the session in the evening, just like this.
It's a positive omen. Peter Wright's got the better of the head-to-head record. It's 14-9 to Snakebite. His last win was in a Players' Championship event back in 2021, so it has been a fair old while since they met. And that win did actually end a run of 3 wins on the bounce for Bunting against Wright.
I remember that meeting they had in 2013, you know, because there was so much press and so much hype around Bunting at the time being a world master. He was about to go on to be a BDO world champion as well. And Peter Wright got drawn against Stephen as a qualifier, and they all thought that maybe Stephen was going to beat him. Peter was having none of it. He really revelled in that game.
Revel in a 1-2-9 checkout if it goes, but that's quite a way below the target. Tidies it up well.
Stephen, you require 105.
5 and tops.
Game shown the first
Nicely done. He's normally a double 16 man, Stephen Bunting.
You're looking at the screen the same way as me. I was looking at the 13 there, not the 5. So either something's clicked in the practice room with tops or combination shots, or this is a new tactic for Stephen.
I've always said it when watching Bunting that I find it odd almost that he loves double 16 as much as he does, because the way that he stands so far to the right of the oche, he's throwing at double 16 from maybe a foot further away than most players, yet he seems to be very, very comfortable on it.
Yeah, it's definitely longer than 7'9½", which is what you would have on, say, a bullseye from the middle of the oche.
Throwing those flyweight darts as well. 12 grams apiece.
That's a good way of putting it. Ryan Sale's got heavyweight darts. Stephen Bunting's got flyweight darts. And Peter Wright's got a Robin Hood. It's interesting about the length of the throw for Stephen, because he's someone who has played predominantly in his life in the northwest of England, where they have different leagues. I don't know if he still plays in them now, actually, but there are leagues where you play from 7'9" and a quarter inches, just like this. But there are others where you play from 8 feet, which is why he was so much of a good player when it came to soft tip darts, because you do play from 8 feet in soft tip darts. He's not just a good steel tip player, Stephen. He has won a darts live series in France. He's just a fabulously talented player, no matter what he's throwing out or what he's throwing with.
It's a pretty safe attempt at 2 tops for Peter Wright. This would be blockbuster. Not meant to be.
At which point do we have to address what Peter Wright is using? I know that he's got long sleeves tonight, but that's very much akin to what he was using in Exeter last night. But he's using a combination that I've never seen before, and it's a flight I've not seen him use before, which is the sharp-edged hexagon. Seems like the stems are ribbed as well. I'm just going to try and get a really close look at these. They're a little different. I think those stems have got holes in them.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to keep up with Peter Wright's equipment. I'm sure he's had to get an extension built on his house to put all his darting equipment in, but the ones that he won the World Championship with are those very sort of standard goldish ones that he clearly plays his best darts with, yet he can't help but tinker. Come on, Peter.
It's one of the things that makes him so great. He is a human highlight reel when it comes to equipment selection. I get the feeling some days he puts his hand in his practice bag and he says, right, whatever stem I get first, I'm going to use that. What flight I find first, I'll use that. But imagine being so good that you can be world class with no matter what you throw. That, to me, as a dart player who's maybe past his best, is frightening.
It's like he's got a roulette wheel at home, because he probably has 36 sets of darts. Lands on 18. Right, those today.
We should create a new game on the dart show about... It's forfeit darts. What set has Peter got to use? It doesn't matter what he uses.
Doesn't matter that Peter Wright left the big fish, because Stephen Bunting reels in 32. Kim Hybrex has beaten Mike DeDecker by 10 legs to 8. Luke Humphreys is 1 leg away from beating Damon Hetter. He's 9-4 up. Karol Sedlacek 9-4 up on Mensa Suljovic. Danny Noppert and Jim Williams, that looks like an absolute corker on board 5. 7-4 to Noppert, both of them averaging over a ton.
Get the feeling that Danny might feel a little bit offended as the reigning champion being out on board 5, but 102 average after 11 legs tells you that he is switched on, and he's a title winner this year. So don't underestimate the possibility of Noppy retaining the championship. Humphreys now 9-5 up on Hetter. That's an awful draw for Damon.
Awful for Luke as well, but he looks like he's dealing with it very well. I did touch on it briefly at the start of the evening. I asked the question, will Peter Wright be a little bit offended to be on stage 2? I mean, what do you reckon went through his mind when he thought, oh, I'm on stage 2, I'm usually a main stage fixture? Do you think it will have bothered him?
He likes change, so why not? Give him a break from the main stage for a game.
I will be honest, it's almost like a main stage, this.
Well, he gesticulated towards Stephen Bunting when he was doing his dancing across the stage, as if to say, ooh, this is big. For a moment, he probably thought he was playing in Red's bar, but when he was ushered towards Studio 36, he thought, well, this is a bit different. And I guarantee you, when I've looked out at this crowd, when it's full, this place is very impressive. For me, this has been the best evolution of the UK Open in years, having this place.
Yeah, the most surprising revelation, perhaps. I don't think anyone that came here this weekend was expecting Stage 2 to look like this.
81.
You could have a European Tour event in this room alone. Job done. Is it job done on a 1-3-2? Stephen Bunting. Well, Bradley Brooks hit it on the main stage earlier today, but not the bullet.
That's a favourite checkout of any darting connoisseur. Peter Wright wouldn't mind this, but he's not going to get a go at the 1-2-2. Doesn't look settled so far, Wright. Bunting kind of does on the outer ring, but Peter Wright is averaging 81, and we're getting into that kind of territory where he might ponder another change.
Time will tell. You're not going to get one of those changes from Stephen. He knows what he wants to use. He doesn't change unless it's a big, big deal.
It's a big year, this, for Peter Wright. He said openly that if he ends the year inside the top 10, it'd be a phenomenal year because he's defending two massive paychecks, the World Match Play and the World Championship. And the way that he started the year suggests that not only is he not going to retain those titles, he might not even get close. It's unwise to rule him out.
Do you know what I think his motivation should be this year? He could become the first Scottish player to have 2 World Match Plays. He could be the first Scottish player to have 3 world titles. And if he was to do that this year to both of them, he might be regarded as the best Scottish player ever.
45.
I know that Gary Anderson's won a lot more titles than Peter has, but let's face facts. People are judged on world titles and massive, massive majors alongside that.
Yeah, to be judged in that company, he hits a maximum alongside the likes of Gary Anderson and Jockey Wilson going back a bit further. That would be some achievement. I'll tell you what would be some achievement if Damon Heta can beat Luke Humphreys. 9-4 a few moments ago, it's 9-7 now. Oh well. 1-2-1 for Peter Wright. Level 17 and Bull.
Full credit to Bunting. He's making himself a bit of a pest in Snakebite's hair. It is red against blue, and Bunting is definitely a red in more ways than one. It was all red there.
Well, 5 legs in. It's still a pedestrian 85 average for Peter Wright.
Stephen doesn't care. He's been around a long, long time. Played in many, many countries, many different disciplines. You wonder what the legacy could possibly be for Bunting when he finally finishes up in his career. But winning titles like this, they can start legacies like it did for Peter Wright in 2017. Once he got that one, he started to kick on a little bit more and became a bigger threat for even bigger titles. That game between Humphreys and Heta is still going. 17 legs in now. It's 9-8 to Humphreys.
And it's Heta's throw as well.
57.
That one could be going the distance. Jim Williams trying to put up a fight back against Danny Noppert as well. Vincent van der Voort a bit more comfortable in his game against Brendan Dolan. That's 8-4 to the Dutch destroyer.
We have heard from some of our producers here that the outside boards have definitely delivered some drama today, especially with that Suter Aspinall game. The word I heard was ridiculous.
And
we like ridiculous.
And ridiculous in darts is always a very, very positive sign.
It's not the end of the world, that last dart. Still in 2-dart range. And it very much depends on what Snakebite does with dart number 3. That is way wide for a two-time world champion. That's missed by an inch.
It nearly clipped the number. It was that far away. Double 10.
70.
Too much of an adjustment.
You require 32.
It's 9-9 between Humphreys and Heta. Score here is now 4-2 Bunting. How many legs has David won in a row now?
It was 9-4.
So he's
at
won
least
5 on the bounce against one of the top players in the world. Welcome to the UK Open, everybody, where anything is possible.
Best thing is, we've got another couple of days coming up.
I'm almost glad that we're just covering the first couple of days, because I think by Sunday I'm going to need to lie down.
135.
Bunting looks fresh and sharp at the same time, and motivated. That is very bad news for Snakebite.
Yeah, I did mention Peter Wright's average. I mean, Bunting's isn't jumping off the page. It's sub 90, but he's doing what he needs to do to try and beat Snakebite. Not overawed at all by the prospect of facing a two-time world champion.
After losing 5 straight legs, Luke Humphreys has started the final leg of his match against Heta with 3 140s. That takes bottle. Heta's left 223 after 9 and can only watch as Humphreys lays up for double 12.
81. Stevie, you require 124.
Bull might be needed here with Wright on a finish. Treble 18. Well, he did try and go for it. Some players might have looked at their opponent's score and thought 160. I don't back you for it, but Bunting sensibly. Wright goes for 160. Well, the first dart was so inviting. It must be infuriating, a dart like that, when it's so plumb in the treble 20, and then the next one is wayward.
Is the third one here for Stephen? It is. And the news in is that Humphreys has converted that last leg to beat Damon Heta in a last leg shootout. Wright would love that right now, but maybe he wouldn't. Just maybe he's starting to put something together and he's taking advantage of Bunting not putting him away. It's now back on throw.
And just going back to Humphreys, I think he's taken a sip of the Nathan Aspinall tonic in terms of ballsy performances. God, those two matches following each other. 10-9 Aspinall Suter, 10-9 Humphreys Heta.
We said it, board it.
Yeah, if I had to be in a different place tonight, that's the board I would have gone to.
I would have pitched
easily.
my tent.
Yeah. I'd have elbowed people out of the way to get a front row seat.
You wouldn't have flashed your pass.
54.
Nah, just do it the old school way. Elbows everywhere.
Oh yeah, I've got a pass. I forgot I'm important here.
Most important people are the players. They're providing all the entertainment.
140.
And we are getting to that part of the night where there will be final games on the boards. Most people are in the hat now for the last 32. And tomorrow on Saturday, last 32 from lunchtime. And then last 16 matches tomorrow night, where everybody wants to be part of the quarterfinals, semi-finals and final on Sunday, where £110,000 will go to the winner. And that would, if it was Peter Wright, not only give him a second UK Open title, but it would erase some of that money that he has to defend a little later in the season.
170 for Bunting. It doesn't need to go for the bull, but he's not going to get an opportunity to. Perfect setup for 170.
Not often you see Peter Wright left on 162. He's a former champion. Vincent van der Voort is a former finalist from nearly 20 years ago. He's currently 9-6 up on Brendan Dolan. Double 9. And Bunting is now 2 ahead, guaranteed to be at least level at the break. I'd love to be ahead. Having that break a throw definitely helps.
Yeah, 5-3 to Bunting right now does feel like the right score for how the game has gone. More 180s, more ton visits. Not quite as efficient on the checkouts, but Peter Wright in 8 legs of darts has only had 6 goals at doubles. That tells me he's not scoring well.
It tells you that he's not getting enough chances. We talked about Ross Smith in the previous game, getting plenty of chances. In fact, more than his opponent, and he wasn't converting. We know what's worse than missing lots of doubles. It's not getting enough chances at them. That game between Danny Noppert and Jim Williams, that might have legs in it. It seems to be very similar to that of Humphreys against Heta. It's now 9-8 to the defending champion. And he starts leg 18 with a 1-3-4. Can he hold on to his title for another day?
92.
There's a bit of a hush over board 2 here. People waiting for this game to ignite a little bit, and it is a change of equipment for Peter Wright. It was imminent. We thought it was coming, and it works.
Yep. Leg 9 if he had that on the bingo card. Can tell you as well on the main stage, as the last game gets underway, Michael Smith has beaten Ian White by 10 legs to 4. James Wade and Gary Anderson is 2 apiece in a battle of the veterans, I suppose. I know James Wade's not even 40 yet, but he's a veteran with how long he's been round.
Yeah, they've got 4 UK Opens between them.
Does he stay there? He did.
98. PD require 180.
Don't go 18s first. He knows better than that. That's exactly what you need. And that. And that. That's how you do it. That's how you break back. And if he holds, we might have another 19-leg thriller on our hands. And Danny Noppert, Jim Williams didn't go to 19 legs because, to the defending champion's credit, he got rid of Jim Williams in that last leg in 12 darts. That's how champions progress.
The freeze surviving a scare. Well, if Peter Wright can go into the break at 5-all, I mean, he'll be doing cartwheels down the corridor because he's not played well.
You just made me laugh, Dan. I've just had this mental projection of Peter Wright doing cartwheels down the corridor. The only way I see Peter Wright doing cartwheels is if he's tied into one of those big wheel things that's wheeled down the corridor.
Now circling through my mind is which darts player is the most likely to be able to do a cartwheel?
I'll get back to you on that one.
Peter
Dimitri. I can imagine him doing a cartwheel. Again, Peter Wright on a bogey number. What's happening here? 162 earlier, this time 166. This one's not as damaging. But I have to give him credit for the change of equipment. It really has made a difference. His proximity to that 60 bet has been so much better.
It's probably just all in the mind with him. In that once he makes the change, he just thinks he's going to start playing better.
It's like David Bowie a little bit, isn't he? Changes. Well, there is a change in this match. We are 10 legs into it, and we are all tied. I get the feeling when he comes back on the stage, he'll be happy that he's 5-all, and he won't be changing those darts again. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, it will be the conclusion of Friday's play.
Welcome back to the final match on stage 2 this Friday evening at the UK Open. And we could well be in for a third consecutive 19-leg game of darts between an under par Peter Wright, although he's certainly become more over par since changing his dart. Stephen Bunting playing some okay stuff, averaging 94. It's been a steady performance, as you would expect from the bullet. But you get the feeling that the rest of this game is going to be more about Peter Wright than Bunting, whether he can continue the momentum he had from the end of that mini session and bring it into the second half.
Let's see if he can. I think Stephen will be somewhat puzzled by the fact that he's not a little bit further into the distance, but you've got to give all the credit to Snakebite. You don't win multiple world titles without having to grind through a few games like this. Russ Bray's last session of the day. He's put in a big shift, as have we, but now it's over to the freshest two players possibly in the building to finish up board number 2. We have a winner from the Brendan Dolan Vincent van der Voort game, and with the last dart of the match, Brendan Dolan was in front for the very first time, beating van der Voort 10-9. Might want to leave Vincent alone for a few minutes. That one's going to hurt. He led the whole time, and Dolan won the last 5 legs.
All about where you finish and not where you start. It's another old adage to take from that. So that concludes all of the outer board games. Still anyone's guess who's going to take the prize here, as indeed it is in James Wade v Gary Anderson, where it's 3-2 to the machine.
There have been plenty of times in the past at the UK Open where we're finished first here on board 2, but not today, courtesy of some really tight games. That's the way we like it. Best of 9 legs from here. No need to go for the bull, but fancied it anyway for a 1-2-7 and game.
It'll never ever get old, that.
It'll never get old. So much so, it's actually a jingle as part of the Dart Show podcast now. It's ubiquitous. How good was that bullseye from Bunting? That was a ripper, right in the middle.
I think I might have used the phrase earlier on, brilliantly unnecessary. Didn't need it, but it was plumb. Perfect.
They're having a game just like they did a few years ago at Minehead when it was 10-9. I would not be shocked to see this one go the distance. And that was a game where Stephen Bunting saw his opponent retrieve a dart from the board and the point was left in the board. I don't know if you remember that game, Dan, but it was a night where Peter Wright was using a small dumpy dart to good effect, but he retrieved his dart from the board and left the point in there.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head at how that's possible, unless he really yanked it out.
And some people, when they re-point their darts, they just force the point in and don't use a little bit of super glue on the end. Obviously, Peter didn't. Peter knows best. And he leaves double 16.
32.
If you need a libation right now, I'd go and get it, because you do not want to miss the end of this game. They're both using the kit that they want. It's now best of 7 legs from here. Stephen will retain the throw in the odd-numbered legs for the remainder of this match. It is up to Snakebite to break the bullet.
He's not looked like being broken on too many occasions, Bunting. He's doing enough to hold his throw. Could this be a start?
This setup is so much better than the other one, isn't it? I'd love to know his average with these darts compared to the other ones. Aerodynamically, they just flow better in the air. They land more pure. He might even give us a 9-darter just to prove it.
The pièce de résistance of stage 2 today. Not quite.
The Bunting average currently touching 96. Right towards 95. Don't you love it when these games are just so tight to call? We've had, it feels like not many 180s. We've had 6. That's all right. But Ross Smith makes 6 look like chicken feed.
I suppose the best compliment you can pay to Wright is that on the face of it, it doesn't seem like he's played very well. But his average is touching 95, which in any standard is very, very good.
You and I both know Michael Smith was not 100% last week, but he still won a game against Nico Springer, averaging 93. And imagine being able to average 31 per dart when you're not 100%. That's what these guys can do. Snakebites on double 18 for that break that he needs. And he gets it. Somebody's starting to kick at the right time. And if he continues to do this in the same sort of way that he did against Michael Smith in the Grand Slam and the World Championship when he won it, then Bunting may not have enough in his arsenal to get through tonight.
Potentially seeing a match-defining moment. Now the pendulum, or the onus, has swung back towards Bunting.
Gary Anderson 5-3 up. And I suppose what we have to do is look at the order of merit, because James Wade could well be on the edge of the top 16 by the end of this weekend. As far as Stephen Bunting is concerned, if he's eliminated, he will remain outside the top 20. Peter Wright's number 2 in the world.
Yeah,
He does have a very, very, very slim chance of making world number 1 by the end of the tournament. It would mean that Wright needs to win the event and Michael Smith would need to lose in the next round.
and that is something that can motivate him. I mean, imagine if they're drawn together, if Wright wins this.
It's a great narrative. I guarantee you one thing. If they're drawn against each other tomorrow,
We won't be watching
we're
it.
not going to be seeing it on board too. I'm really fearing for Bunting's chances now, because Wright is on something very, very accurate right now. The treble 19s are working. The 2 treble visits are coming to fruition. And these are the kind of shots that he gobbles up.
2 or 1 dart. It's going to be 1. At double 16. And he's finding it now just when he needs to. Peter Wright stepping on the gas. Stephen Bunting appears to have hit the brake pedal.
Peter's not one for fast cars or fancy watches, but he's going fast right now and he's timing everything brilliantly.
And he's overhauled Bunting in the average stakes now. It's all down to the checkout percentage. 8 from 11. We thought Johnny Clayton was doing well on the outer ring. This is even better.
I've seen Peter Wright at World Match Players and the like, where he's gone 7-8 legs without missing a double. And it doesn't bug him as well. He doesn't get too bogged down by perfection. He actually gets a rush from it. And it's a rush that he wants constantly. It's almost like he's addicted to brilliance. And
Yeah,
one
it's a
thing he's
good way of putting
better
it,
at
that.
than probably any other dart player that I've ever witnessed is that he's addicted to the quest for perfection. Now, perfection doesn't exist in this sport, but the journey of him trying to find it is what gets him up in the morning.
And that explains all the tinkering with the equipment.
120.
If he's at 99%, he'll search for that extra 1%.
I remember when he got a set of darts made by his engineer in Wales, and he said to him, these are going to win me the world title, and they did.
100. PD require 155.
I wonder if he's found something here that's going to win him the UK Open for the second time, 6 years on from his first. Well, he's thinking bull here, maybe.
59.
Stephen might be thinking bull.
105.
Is he going to stay tradish, as the kids would say it? Well, earlier on, he went 5 tops. Not this time, he got them both.
Stephen Bunting proving his versatility on the outer ring.
Game on.
Did you ever, when you were playing, because you'll have had favoured doubles, were there ever any occasions where you thought, I'm just going to try something else because it just feels right at this stage?
Yeah, there were a few times where I thought that I could hit double 18 with my eyes closed, throwing it over my shoulder. So I tended to leave it a bit more often in those days. So on 76, I'd go 20-20 double 18 as opposed to going for single 20, single 16 tops. Commanding on his own throw. You just wonder what Stephen's got to do to get through this contest.
Well, those darts were thrown quicker than normal, almost in resignation. Let's just get to the next leg and see what happens.
We all know that 9-7 is not safe. But against Peter Wright playing this level of stuff, it's a very different proposition.
Well, this is a potential outcome that didn't look likely at the start of the game. Peter looked flat. His darts didn't look like they were working, but since making the change.
That's what happens sometimes when you're a bit of a tinkerer. You can take some things for granted, but he fixes it immediately. One more leg, and he's in the hat.
It's got to be perfect now from Bunting. Gary Anderson 6-4 up on James Wade. That's the only other match going on at the same time as this. The outer boards are done for the day.
100.
You can't slow down when you're 9-7 up. We've seen people bitten today.
100.
Van der Voort lost the last 5 legs. Alan Suter lost the last 3 legs. You would fancy that Wright will have enough to get through this, but you can never take that for granted. You've got to do what Danny Noppert did in his last leg
60.
of his win against Jim Williams. Find the 12 darter sooner rather than later and just get it done. Easier said than done.
100.
But these elite players like Wright, like Noppert, like Michael Smith and others, they're more likely to find it than anybody else on earth.
Bunting can't find another maximum.
If there's one thing that Bunting has over a lot of players in this draw, it's the mental strength. When he made the semi-finals of the World Championship in 2021, his ability to win really key last leg deciders in sets was extraordinary. He needs to do that 3 times in a row.
Double 19 for double 12. That's a lovely dart.
89.
Well, he'd rather have missed that on the outside, I think. And Wright back on 196.
Now, Peter's put the pressure on.
Brutal with a capital B from Peter Wright. And now this has to go. No two ways about it. Stephen Bunting at double six. Oh.
That was an aggressive flick off that flight. I think when he threw that, it was going in, but the deflection denied it. But the double three, wow! Mental brilliance from Bunting.
I wonder he's pursing his lips. He threw that second dart and he leant over almost like a photo finish, thinking that it was in.
These players are so good that when it leaves their hand, they know where it's going. You can throw a brilliant shot blind and know it's there. And I guarantee you, knowing Stephen for many years, that if that previous dart wasn't there, it was in the double six. It didn't matter. And this game may be very young. We may still have a couple of legs left.
You know what? I think we deserve it as well. A last leg shootout in this one.
It's fast becoming the best board two session I've ever covered. I've said to you all day, Dan, great things happen when you're around. Great things! Could be the best of things!
Well, we've had nearly everything today. The perfect leg. We are still awaiting. Peter Wright miles back. Treble 20. Yes. He's on the 9-darter. Oh, we're denied a last leg shootout. On the 9.
In a funny sort of way, Dan, that might be a blessing. Because if he'd have hit that to get the first 9-darter in Studio 36, his adrenaline to start the next leg might have been skyward. Now he's just got to get the leg one and go into that last leg decider. Wow, what a game.
He can't believe he's followed that up with a 180. Pressure firmly on. How horrible is your luck?
Well, that was a horrible deflection. And now, Peter Wright, who's been lingering in this leg, might get a match dart. But doesn't. Bunting's got to put right what he couldn't do in the last visit.
He's going to curse that double 12. Double 6. It's not going to go. 8 darts into a 9-darter, and Stephen Bunting might lose this leg and consequently lose the match. 2 at tops for Peter Wright. And he can't take it last dart in hand.
Bunting was brilliant on double 3 a little bit earlier. Now he's got 3 at it. He would dearly just like to use the 1. How's the adrenaline, Stephen? Perfect. 9-9 again. Somebody call the emergency authorities because we've had so many 9s tonight. You might as well just dial 99 9999 because that has been the scoreline after 18 legs in the last 3 matches.
Some things in darts don't make sense. Why is Stephen Bunting being so effective on double 3 of all darts?
He doesn't care which double it is, as long as he gets it for the win to take Wright out. It's just like that game from a few years ago. This is their 3rd meeting at Butlin's Minehead. A 10-0 for Wright. Then a 10-9 for Bunting. Who's going to get this 10-9? That is so perfect. It should have a stamp on it. That dart made the third dart even easier.
Well, all of a sudden, the trebles aren't coming for Bunting.
60.
Peter Wright now has time on his side.
He'd love 2 trebles.
1.
1 is fine.
Only a maximum will do now for Bunting.
You sense that's the case. And I think, based on that little exhalation, he knows it.
Only 2 trebles will leave a finish. Well, he's done that. It's a great visit from Bunting.
That is a world-class 140. And he may force Wright to go for the bull if he gets the 51. We'll never know. If Bunting hits this 156, this place is about to shake.
If he hits this 156, we probably will have saved the best checkout until last. And what a way it would be to end the day's action on stage 2. It's not going to go, though. And now Peter Wright has time. Went looking for the bull, but hits the single 20.
He requires 64.
If Wright doesn't hit this, how much of a happy accident was that small 20 Stevens just hit? It may not matter, because the contest is over. Snakebite survives a mighty scare from what was a brilliant game of darts from the both of them. They've had some battles over the years, but this one is won by the man in blue. He will get himself into the hat in the next few minutes. We'll wait for the conclusion of Wade Anderson, which is 6-6. But this Scotsman is through. Dan McCarthy, what a day it has been.
Absolutely sensational. What a day to make your debut in the UK Open. 3 last leg deciders, a bucket load of great games otherwise. And it's only Friday as well. We've got 2 more days of this at Butlins Minehead. But for now, it's Peter Wright who advances into the last 32. Join us again for more Stage 2 action tomorrow at 12:45 on Stage 2. Make sure you join us. It's going to be epic. See you then.
See you all again here tomorrow. Have a fabulous night. Be safe, be careful, drink sensibly. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.